Hello and welcome to Life in Surround. Today's topic is Miles Davis in Surround. I'm not really going to attempt to rank these albums in order of worst to best like I sometimes do. The offerings here are just so different and they're worth having in their own very unique ways that I really don't feel like ranking them would really do much justice or really be that helpful. I'm going to do my best just to describe what you get with each album, and then you can make up your mind whether you want to own it or not. Alright, so I'm going to try to keep this video pretty short, but cover music, sonics, and mix for each one. So let's get going. First off, we have Kind of Blue from 1959. And you can see here I have the Japanese version. This is a 5-channel SACD. The things to note about Kind of Blue are that the music speaks for itself. I think it's the best-selling jazz album of all time. And there's a reason for that. It's a classic, it's timeless. Sonically, it's extremely well represented here. It sounds every bit as good as every stereo source I've ever heard, which would be an older CD from my mom's collection, and then the stereo layer on this SACD. What they've done to expand it into surround is they have separated out the 3 channels of the master tape into left, center, and right, and then they played the recording back in a studio that they selected and set up microphones to record the ambience of the album in a studio setting. So is this worth having if you're a surround nut? Nothing is going to pop out at you from your surrounds. No important music has been discreetly assigned to the surrounds. All of the original recording comes out of the front 3 channels. But this is slightly better than just running a stereo recording through an upmixer, because you do have the discrete center channel, and the ambience that you get in the surrounds is actually produced by engineers in a studio they've selected for a particular kind of reverb. And so, yes, this does beat just upmixing a stereo source, but it is not worth it if you're looking for whiz-bang surround. Next up, we have Sketches of Spain, a 1960 work of art. Trumpet by Miles Davis, orchestration by Gil Evans. Musically, this is just a one-of-a-kind. It is jazz stretching out, maybe for the first time, certainly a very early jazz recording to really break the barriers that it did. It extended itself beyond the usual jazz instrumentation of drums, piano, upright bass, maybe a little bit of guitar, and, you know, some horns and woodwinds, and drives the palette further into like some Arabic tones, some Spanish tones, some harp. So it gets fairly exotic with its instrumentation, and I think that was pretty new for a lot of people when it came out. Monster Music in their liner notes are fairly mysterious about how they achieved this 5.1 mix from a 3-channel source. We just got through talking about Kind of Blue, how it's really just 3 discrete channels up front and then some studio recorded ambience in the surrounds. Monster's liner notes say that through no processing or digital tools, they were able to separate out parts from the 3-channel master tape into 19 different parts. Now, I don't know how they did that. Perhaps somebody can contact Monster, Noel Lee, and get some more clarity, but maybe they want to keep it mysterious. But what they did, having separated out these parts, is they sought to spread the players around the room according to where they were in the studio at the time of recording. So they're looking to place you in the studio on recording day, and I think they did a stupendous job. Just walking around the room and putting my ear close to some channels, you do get quite a bit of noise to sound, but I went and compared it to a high-resolution stereo source, and all of that noise is also there, and my guess is that most of it is actually the vibrations of the snares under the snare drum. And either way, the noise is fitting, has this kind of warmth and this kind of gritty reality to it. So I think they did a fantastic job mixing this. It is a marvelous experience to feel like you're in the studio as this band is laying down this 1960 forward-leaning artistic masterpiece. So I totally recommend this if you're a surround nut. So with that, let's move on to In a Silent Way. Here I have the circa 2002 Sony SACD. You see here it's in the distinctive Sony SACD slip sleeve. My seller didn't actually send me one. I had to pirate this off of my Alice in Chains SACD. But that's the links that I will go to for this channel. I will rob Peter to pay Paul. Anyway, just to make sure that I had the best SACD version of In a Silent Way, I ordered the recent Japanese copy. That also helps it fit in with my kind of blue copy. But what is there to say? Musically, this is 1969. You get quite a different vibe on this one from either Sketches or Kind of Blue. You have Miles beginning to head toward a fusion-y type of thing. You've got Herbie Hancock on this recording. You've got Chick Corea. You've got John McLaughlin and a bunch of other wonderful players, but I've just listed off the ones that I know the best. It's kind of like conventional jazz in its sound and kind of mellow and relaxing, and I think it fits a lot of moods. So musically, I totally dig it. Sonically, this sounds just stupendous. It doesn't sound like a 1969 recording to me. So if you're concerned about sonics whatsoever, do not fear. Totally pick this up in those regards. Now, this is a true 5.1 discrete mix. Lossless on SACD, so we're kind of advancing in that regard. And looking at the mix here, what we mainly have is McLaughlin up in the front left. We have some keys and sax in the front right. We have some electric piano and some organ in the surround right. And we have some electric piano and organ in the surround left. Miles' lead trumpet, the bass and the drums mostly hold down the center of the mix toward the front of the room. It really does showcase this album pretty well, in my opinion. And with that, let's move on to Bitches Brew. That's right, I said it, Bitches Brew has been released on Sony SACD. This is a 7-inch package. Comes in this plastic sleeve. Here's my OBI strip. This package is just friggin' marvelous. It's got this kind of foil coating to it. They sought to reproduce everything that originally came in the original Japanese SQLP release. So you've got a big old booklet with a bunch of Japanese notes. All kinds of like sales literature, stickers, and then they reproduce the actual LP artwork. And your SACDs come on these kind of black platters. that help you get it in and out of the album more easily. What is there to say? This was originally a 1970, circa 1970 SQ quad LP. SQ is a matrix technology. It allows you to play an LP in stereo on a stereo system. However, if you have an SQ decoder, through phase relationship manipulation and control, some information is delegated to the fronts and some to the rears. And SQ did not do that very discreetly. I'm not an expert on it, but I believe it would give you somewhere around 70% discreteness. So not everything intended to go to the rear went to the rear, some of it stayed up front, and vice versa, okay? So for the first time ever, in absolute lossless SACD quality, you get the discrete quad master. So exactly what was intended to be in the front left, in the front right, in the surround left, in the surround right, is now available for you in super high quality. And is this mix worth it? This mix is so worth it. I'm not sure that my mix slides can really do it justice, but I'm going to try to get the point across of how this album is mixed. And again, this is just a snapshot in time. I chose Pharaoh's Dance to start jotting down some notes. In general, you have the drums mixed in the front right and the surround left. So the drums are diagonally panned for this recording. But occasionally the drums pan actively from the rear left through the rear right up to the front right. You also at sometimes have drums in like a 1, 2, 3, 4 pattern actively jump from channel to channel. You have some electronic piano up in the front left. You also have a bit down in the surround right, but the main electric piano, the foundation of the electric piano, is up in the front left. McLaughlin's electric guitar is showcased in the surround right. You have some brass and woodwind support, mostly up in the fronts, some clarinet, some oboe maybe, some additional trumpet. Now let's talk about Miles' lead trumpet. It is usually anchored in the center channel, but not only do its echoes emanate out to both of the surrounds in kind of a delayed way, it's not simply that you're hearing the lead trumpet in the center channel and then the reverb in the surrounds. Like you hear the lead trumpet sound a note and then in a delay it shows up in the surrounds. And this is done very musically, it's done in time. I don't know if Miles had some kind of a delay running on his trumpet at the time, but this is absolutely intentional, it's musical, and it will blow your mind. There are also times when the trumpet echoes ping-pong back and forth between the surrounds. There are also times when the lead trumpet will hop channels. Folks, I cannot state emphatically enough that this is one of the craziest mixes that has ever been put out. This is not an easy album to listen to. My recommendation and the way I choose to approach the album myself is I listen to disc 1 sometimes and I listen to disc 2 sometimes. I happen to feel like that provides two very cool and very interesting listening sessions. If this is musically for you, and go audition it some cheaper way, this double SACD in this lavish Japanese 7-inch packaging with this crazy quad mix in lossless SACD is well worth the asking price, and I think I found mine for around $50, something like that. Get this before it sells out and a year or two from now is commanding ridiculous prices. Please do yourself that favor. Now, let's move on because I hope to keep this video kind of short. And I just want to state that Miles in Surround would not be complete without talking about the collection by Audio Fidelity, because it features one of the songs from Brew, which is Miles Runs the Voodoo Down. And some people have been curious as to whether it sounds any different than the Japanese SACD. And so what I will say is that it does not sound very much different. To my ears, having done an A-B comparison, the Audio Fidelity collection, Miles Runs the Voodoo Down, is slightly louder and slightly brighter. But my brain could be making that up for a variety of different reasons. Like putting one on and then the other, you begin to hear different things just because of the repetition and because you can anticipate what's coming and certain things are standing out. So I will say that they sound close enough that I'm not sure they're different. And if they are, to my ears, Audio Fidelity's is slightly louder, slightly brighter. But this collection is cool in its own right. It features quite a few songs that were released on other Audio Fidelity recordings, but maybe you don't have them all. And it also does feature some tracks that haven't been put out discreetly in surround in any other way, like Lay Lady Lay by Bob Dylan and several others. So this is pretty cool, and I had to mention it in a Miles Davis surround video. Let's jump forward to 1986. This is Tutu. And listen, musically this may not be for you. It is kind of an 80s drum machine, electronic instrumentation kind of sound. Some people complain that they feel it's really a Marcus Miller album with Miles Davis as a guest artist. I don't think that's quite fair because Miles Davis does bring a whole lot to the table here, and you should check this out. It does have some great Miles Davis playing, and Marcus Miller is no slouch on the bass. I would say that musically I'm not super duper in love with this, but it is on DVD-Audio, so that's lossless. It is discreetly in 5.1, so it's got that going for it. The only thing is whether you can get into it musically or not. So just audition it however you can, and then make up your own mind. But I dig it. I think I gave it around an 8 out of 10 on Quadraphonic Quad, and it's going to be sticking around. And let's wrap up with Live in Montreux. This is your typical concert mix. You've got the band up in front. You've got reverb from the hall in the surrounds. I feel like it was worth mentioning this offering because it is a 5.1 mix, DTS, and just because of how special this performance was. You have Quincy Jones conducting a tribute concert to the music of Gil Evans, who had just died a few years before. Longtime collaborator with Miles Davis, including on Sketches of Spain. And this was recorded just a few months before Miles died. He gives a tremendous performance under those circumstances. The band supports him and helps him a lot. But this is very, very, very special, and it's not very long, so it doesn't overstay its welcome. If you can find this at a decent price and can handle the fact that it's your typical concert mix, like 99.999% of the concerts out there, there's nothing discreet in your surrounds, but that isn't the point. And so I wanted to mention it. Now, there is a full Montreux collection of about 10 DVDs out there that I just haven't found at a price that I am willing to pull the trigger on, but I wanted to mention it. This is Miles Davis in surround, right? So I want to mention all of it. And that being said, when are we going to get live evil? Can someone like Sony Japan or maybe Dutton Vocalion please, please, please release live evil in a lossless, discrete format? That would just about give us everything that I think has ever been released by Miles Davis in quad or 5.1. Well, this has been Miles Davis in surround. I thank you for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, give me a thumbs up. If you didn't, give me a thumbs down. Either way, leave your comments, offer some constructive criticism, call me names, tell us all how much you like Miles Davis, what you think of these various recordings. I didn't attempt to kind of categorize them, to rank them, but I would say if you're a surround nut, start with Bitches Brew and In a Silent Way, and then see where things go from there. Join me on Facebook, Life in Surround. Join me on Instagram, Life in Surround. Join me on Twitter. These alternate social media are really just meant to drive traffic to this YouTube channel. But I do share like some unique information on them, such as sometimes when discs are on sale, things that I'm listening to that I may never have the opportunity to cover in a video. So please join me on those social media channels. And with all that said, I will simply remind you once again to live life in surround.